Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, and what a night last night. The Phils not only win by 10, 13-3 over the Nationals, but Weston Wilson, yes, Weston Wilson, makes history and hits for the cycle. We'll break it down in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for checking us out today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk space. Sports talk radio for 5 years, 97.5 The Fanatic. I've been doing that. 3 years, credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member, and my third year as your host of Locked On Phillies. All of that stuff is great and wonderful, just like Prize Picks, which is the sponsor that brings us this episode. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Right off the rip today, a little bit later episode. I apologize. I had the Eagles played last night too, and I'm co-hosting with a couple of guys, Eagles pregame for our radio station. So I had a long night last night. I apologize for getting to this too late, but you know how early I'm up for morning sports talk. Anyway, saying about me, just a little bit late episode, want to explain because people are probably dying to hear me talk about one of the moments of the season. Probably the moment of the season so far with Weston Wilson hitting for the cycle, right? I know Kyle Schwarber's grand slam was huge, and that's magical for the season itself. But then you see some special history sometimes at the ballpark. And you know what? I was lucky enough to be in the house last night to watch that live. The energy at Citizens Bank Park was ridiculous overall. We're going to talk about the game as a whole in a little bit, but I wanted to start by just talking about the cycle by Weston Wilson. It's absolutely amazing what in his short time in the major leagues, Weston Wilson has accomplished in terms of moments. It is. He's such a great guy, a great teammate. He's a guy that everyone's rooting for, obviously. Do I think he is an everyday Major League Baseball player? No, I don't. I'm just being honest. I don't think he is. I think him being in the minors for so long tells you that. But I'm not trying to bring him down on a day like today. I'm just saying, I don't want people to overstep what this means, but I do want people to fully celebrate how awesome that one accomplishment is. He did have the first career hit was a home run situation in his first career at bat at the major league level in the Michael Lorenzen no-hitter last year. And then tonight, well, the moment was just about all his. Well, again, 10 total runs scored. Here's why it's so cool. First of all, the rarity of a cycle is amazing, right? Before Weston Wilson, can you remember the last time the Philadelphia Phillies had a player hit for the cycle? Well, it wasn't that long ago. It was actually JT Realmuto last year in Arizona in the regular season. Remember that one because it broke like a 19-year drought between that and the last time, which was David Bell. I've only seen 3, I believe, in my lifetime. Maybe 4 have happened, but I was young. I was young even for the David Bell one. I spent most of my adult life not seeing a Philadelphia Phillies player hit for the cycle. Now we have it in back-to-back years, but that doesn't make it any more rare. It's happened 10 times in franchise history. Only 9 players have ever done it. So it's an incredibly rare experience to watch it, and even more so to do it as a hitter. Weston Wilson has to be on cloud 9 today. And it's so funny. All the great players that have come and gone in this city, all the guys that you believe that should be able to hit for the cycle that just never did, that you're like, oh, wow. But Weston Wilson did it. This guy that the Phillies just called up that's like a lot of people call a quad A player and everything like that. He finds a way. How amazing is that? So let's talk about, first off, how we got there. And then, let's, continue how rare it is and the players that never did it, just to kind of give you a little bit of color about how special this is. So David Bell did, I believe the year was 2004. It was when David Bell had the cycle before JT Realmuto's one. But outside the last 2 years, that was the last one in Phillies history. So you just think about all the players who have been here since. Jimmy Rollins never did it. Chase Utley never did it. Ryan Howard, I know he's not exactly a speed demon on the bases, or wasn't at least. He never did it. Victorino never did it. Like, Ben Revere didn't hit home runs, but he was fast enough. Like, all those guys from the 08, 09, 2010, 2011 stretch, none of those guys ever did it in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform. There were some good players in between that time and the modern day Phillies, not good teams, but good players that never did it. Rhys Hoskins never did it. I mean, you look at some of the guys that played outfield in that stretch that had moments. Dominic Brown was one of the greatest hitters on planet Earth for like a month. He never even came close to doing it. Like, there were so many, just like nearly 2 decades worth of Philadelphia Phillies baseball players, and it never happened. It was starting to get annoying how long it had been since the Philadelphia Phillies hit for the cycle. When Weston Wilson didn't end that streak, it was JT last year, but the fact that he did it, like, we had a Bonafide Debate at the radio station today. It wasn't on air for our morning show, but we talked about it between us and our midday show crossing over with the great, you may know, Mike Messinelli. If you like Philadelphia sports talk, we were all talking about, like, would you rather have seen a no-hitter or a cycle? Would you rather throw a no-hitter or hit for the cycle? And part of me wants to say that, like, I don't know which one's more rare. It's very, very close. I believe there have been more cycles than no-hitters in Major League history, but I don't believe the gap is that large. And you look at it and you say, okay, realistically, how difficult is this compared to that? Hitting for the cycle, it's harder to get on base than it is to get guys out. The great hitters hit 300. I mean, 7 out of 10 times, you're not on. It's simple baseball math. So already hitting is harder than pitching is when it comes to getting on base, getting hits and stuff like that, the just averages of everything. But to be able to go single, double, triple, home run is just, it's such a rarity. But then to get 27 outs without giving up a hit, is that more? It's more accomplishment, but it should be easier to do on an individual basis. Like, there's so much that goes into it. I don't think we truly appreciate how close throwing for a no-hitter is to going ahead and hitting for the cycle. It's basically, I'm hesitating, right? Holding my horses here. Was last night like the 2024 equivalent of the Michael Lorenzen game? You remember the Michael Lorenzen game last year. It was the exact one where Weston Wilson hit his first career home run, his first career bat. Nick Castellanos hit career home run number 200. And then Michael Lorenzen, in his first home start, threw a no-hitter, and the Phillies never felt hotter. Well, last night, you had all of this stuff happen. You had Weston Wilson. You had Zack Wilson. We don't want Zack Wilson on the Eagles. We don't want Zack Wilson on the Phillies. But you had Zack Wheeler throw a great start. We're going to talk about everything else from the game. But my God, was that amazing all over. 17 hits for the Philadelphia Phillies. So many home runs. So many RBIs. So many guys with multi-hit nights. Everything going right for the Philadelphia Phillies. And it was great that in this iteration of that special game where, like, everything happens, Weston Wilson was the focal point and not just a sideline to the headline of Michael Lorenzen's no-hitter. I can't feel any better for the dude than I do right now. And that's the type of special moment, right? This is ultimately what it comes down to. We'll talk X's and O's next and what actually happened in the game outside of one man's accomplishments, very special accomplishments, mind you. But that's the type of special moment that makes you feel like this team is turning it around. I know we talked about that with the Brandon Marsh blind catch, and it kind of worked and kind of didn't, and kind of overstated it, and kind of don't really understand how that affects momentum. Like, I get all that stuff. That it's very intangible, saying, well, this turns everything around. It's almost asking too much of a moment. But when you see that from a guy like Weston Wilson, I keep saying it, and all due respect to him, like, it's not the guy you expect to ever do this. It does give you that feeling of, wow, these were the type of things that were happening when this Phillies team was on a roll. These were the type of moments that this team was having when they were at their best. And this is the type of moment alongside the, Like, you had the Kyle Schwarber Grand Slam to save the season, and then the Weston Wilson cycle in back-to-back nights. How are we even, like, the Phillies, did they save moments? Did they spend the last 2 months just saying, well, we're going to save everything special for a stretch of games in early August or mid-August? Like, maybe. It'd be crazy if they did. But, like, I don't know. You just need to understand how giddy I am about the moment for Wes, what it means for the team, the game itself. I haven't been this happy as a Philadelphia Phillies fan in what feels like months. And maybe that says more about me and how, like, worried I've started to get about the team. But, man, do I not feel worried today. It was amazing last night at the ballpark. The energy of the fan base, knowing that Weston Wilson, how he got there. The triple off the wall to right field, the bounce back. He can move a little bit too. I didn't realize how fast he was. I knew he was fast, outfielder, but like, he can move. Triple off the wall in right, then an infield single, then a home run, and then you got a double that Washington's right fielder full on sold out for. Kind of mean move by him. Like, you're down so much. You're full-on Superman selling for one of these to kill the guy's chances of getting the cycle. You should have played it on the backhand and let him jog into second base. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Weston Wilson, the cycle, a beautiful moment for the Philadelphia Phillies. And coming up, we're going to talk about a beautiful game for the Philadelphia Phillies and get into this more from a team perspective. But, folks, you know how much I love this team. And I feel so good about where they're at right now. We'll talk about it coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about Liquid IV. Listen, I had a long night last night, and part of it was enjoying the Philadelphia Phillies baseball game. Part of it was being tired after, catching up with the Eagles game and everything, doing all my duties with Sports Talk Radio. But I had a beverage or two last night, and this morning, certainly needed a Liquid IV. And they sent us a package. So, you know what I did? I ripped one of those bad boys open. I put it in a bottle of water. I shook it up. I took it to work at 4 a.m. this morning. I was feeling great before we even hit the airwaves. Because when you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV. And their new Popsicle Firecracker flavor. It's a surefire summer hit. You got to go ahead and check it out. They're powered by LIV Hydra Science, Liquid IV Hydra Science, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients to turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. And right now, you can get 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Hydrate the right way with Liquid IV. Make sure you're good for baseball season. All right, let's get into the actual game from last night because so much more happened. Like, it almost feels, as crazy that I have this thought process, it almost feels unfair to just talk about Weston Wilson for a second. But the cycle is such a special accomplishment that he earned it. My goodness, 17 hits by a team, 13 runs by a team is a special accomplishment in and of itself. The Phillies did something last night that they have not been doing, even in success lately, and that's getting off to a hot start. Bottom of the first inning, Zack Wheeler had worked through the top of the first, no problem. You get the Philadelphia Phillies up, and Kyle Schwarber gets out. You're like, okay, well, whatever, that happens. But then Trey Turner, it's a rollover ground ball to third base, beats it out, gets kind of lost in the third baseman's glove. He throws it away. Cool. Bryce Harper finds a way on base, gets a hit. Runners on first and second. One out. You're like, oh, okay, Phillies have a little something going here. And Alec Boehm's been the guy that's been hot. And he rips one into the seats and makes it 3-0. And the bank goes crazy. And then Nick Castellanos follows it up with a back-to-back home run opportunity, cashed in, 4-0 Phillies. And that was like, well, I will tell you right now, that game was over at 4-0. Like, I know the Nationals ended up scoring 3, but the Phillies were far from done scoring. That was the first inning with only 1 out. And that game was dead, gone, over at 4-0. You could tell by the way this team just had approached things in the first inning. They took it to Mitchell Parker, who was absolutely roughed up. 3 innings of work, 10 hits allowed, 9 earned runs on the stat sheet. You feel bad for that guy, but whatever. The Phillies needed it. We'll beat the brakes off anyone that comes in here, even if you're going to throw a guy that probably shouldn't be throwing against the Philadelphia Phillies or shouldn't be, at least in that night. And it was everybody. The only guys in the lineup that did not have a hit were guys that pinch hit. Cal Stevenson and Mundo Sosa, who both got into the game because of the deficit. They didn't have at bat. Well, actually, Mundo Sosa had one at bat. He was 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Cal Stevenson didn't even get an at bat. But listen to these numbers. Kyle Schwarber, 1 for 5, 2 runs scored, a walk. Beautiful work out of the leadoff spot once again, setting the table. Trey Turner, 3 for 5, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. Beautiful. Bryce Harper, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 1 walk. Yeah, Brandon Marsh. Oh, sorry. Brandon Marsh went ahead and he pinch hit as well. Did not get an at bat. Alec Boehm, 1 for 4, 3 RBIs on that home run in the first inning. Nick Castellanos, 2 for 5, 2 RBIs, 1 run. JT Realmuto, 1 for 4, 1 run scored, 1 walk. Bryson Stott, 1 for 4, got himself back on base. Weston Wilson, we know, 4 for 5, 3 runs scored, 1 RBI, hit for the cycle. Yohan Rojas, 2 for 5, 3 RBIs himself. Just everybody top and bottom contributing. That's the beautiful thing. What did they do in the 9-5 victory? Well, Kyle Schwarber's grand slam was a big part, but they started using the whole field. They started hitting as a team and not just trying to mash every ball over the wall as an individual effort to try and help the team win. Last night, you know what that box score tells me? That tells me that this team made a focused effort to say, we're going to trust the guy behind us. We're going to trust everybody's going to hit. And we're going to go up there and just put good approaches, good swings on the ball, put pressure on the pitcher and the defense for the next guy because I'm getting on base. And that is what happened all the way through the game. And no let up either. You get up 4-0 in the first, it may be like, well, we're better than this team. We're up 4-0. Maybe we'll throw in a bat away or two because, hey, all right, we did some damage. Hell no. We're going to score 13. You know, it's funny. So I had the Eagles pregame show last night on the radio, and I bought last-minute tickets to the game. So I went there with someone, and we didn't get there till like 7:30 because I was on air till 7 for the Eagles pregame show. I actually made great time getting to the stadium. But we walk into the bank, and it's 4-0 already. And I'm like, man, we probably missed everything. Like, we probably missed the amount of run scoring, the large amount of run scoring they're going to do in this game. Seems logical, right? Like, maybe they'll score 7 or 8. And then we watch them make it to 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 right off the rip, basically. And I was like, oh, wow. We still saw there were 9 more runs to see, and we showed up in the third inning, and they were up 4-0. Like it's crazy what the Philadelphia Phillies did offensively last night, and it came from everybody. I also want to talk about what Zack Wheeler did on the mound, because part of what you got to do is you got to set the table for the early lead. That quick first inning, great, confidence-inducing. 6 innings of 3-hit ball, 2 runs allowed, only 1 earned, 6 strikeouts, 1 home run allowed, 96 pitches. Perfect. Get in, get out, stay under 100 pitches, get 6 innings of work, find the win, dominate them, let your team do the work behind you. Like, it was just a strong start by Wheeler, and it wasn't even his best. You'll absolutely take that. It had to feel good for him to get some amazing run support. He's 12-5 on the year. Ryan Kerkering, 1 inning of work, didn't look his best. He did give up a hit and an earned run, 2 hits and an earned run. One of those hits a homer. So, yeah, not his best, but at that point, you've got 3 runs allowed and you're up heavy. And then Tanner Banks, solid in an inning's worth of work. You also saw a situation where Max Lazar came in, and I don't really know what you expect to see from Max Lazar. Like, I'd be lying to you if I had a huge scouting report on who Max Lazar is. He's not a long-term arm for this team, but he got a chance to get in the game and shut down the 9th inning, top of the 9th he got against the Nationals. Like, it's a beautiful thing. You didn't really use your high leverage arms. Kerkering is probably the highest leverage arm that you used out of the pen. You get the guys a little bit of rest. You get in some guys that can eat some innings. Your offense does everything. Like, last night was the perfect game. In your mind, you cannot build, like, I know you might say, well, no hitter, first career home run, 200th career home run, all of this stuff that happened in the Michael Lorenzen game last year. Okay, well, put that realistically out of your mind. Like, that was a fairy tale. But if you were building like a realistic, perfect baseball game for the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't think in your mind's eye you could realistically dream up a game like that last year or a game like what happened last night. Just such a special moment for the entire Phillies team. All of this, by the way, coming on the heels of a team meeting yesterday before the final game or 2 days ago, before the final game against the Marlins. All they did was come out and have Kyle Schwarber save the season with a grand slam and then absolutely torch the Washington Nationals. So happy with this baseball team right now. I can't stop saying it. But coming up next, it's not like 2 wins does it either. I'm not going to be like too picky. Like, that's great. I feel good about where the Phillies are at. I think they're in a really good place for who they're playing. The schedule's going to get tougher. We're going to talk about that on Monday, and we're going to recap the National Series. But you got to play 3 more games against Washington. There's no let up. Nola on the mound, opportunity to win 3 straight, opportunity to guarantee yourself a series split if you win tonight's game, opportunity to let down what happened last night if you don't keep the momentum. So coming up next, we're going to discuss what the Phillies need to do to build on last night's performance and not let the great steps go by the wayside. We'll talk about it as we wrap up today's episode. Let's talk about Prize Picks, though, too. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They got over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You don't have to play against other players or anything like that. No, you just get those right. You set your lineup. It takes like 60 seconds max to set your lineup, and you figure out, well, who you want to pick. Now, I've been telling you the last couple of days, big time Philadelphia Phillies trail time, which means if you think Bryce Harper at like 1.5 hits more, Zack Wheeler strikeouts 5.5 or something like more. That's what I was telling you about last night's game. Well, do it again tonight with Aaron Nola and the Phillies and everything that they're going to do to keep this momentum going. They scored 13 runs last night and had 17 hits. If you followed the Phillies on Prize Picks, you probably did pretty darn well. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 in a snap. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's Prize Picks, folks. You know what I'm about to say. It's that easy. All right, let's preview Game 2 of this series with the Nationals. But first, I do want to remind you, well, thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day, maybe a little bit later today than normal, but I explained that in the open. Now make Locked On MLB your second listen. Paul Sullivan, Sully, he's the best. He brings you humor. He covers the entirety of the major leagues, so you can keep an eye on what's going on around baseball, especially this time when playoff pushes are becoming significantly more serious. Funny guy, knowledgeable guy. Go ahead and check it out. Locked On MLB is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So now Aaron Nola is past the rope as part of the starting rotation. And he did not have his best start last time out in Arizona, but I don't think he was as bad as people look at that game. Junior Marte imploded. Aaron Nola wasn't good, but he wasn't as bad as the score indicated when the Phillies lost 11-1. So can he bounce back? Absolutely. And he's facing Patrick Corbin, who's 2-12 this year with a nearly 6 ERA. Patrick Corbin's been terrible. Now, would it be typical Phillies if they came out and after last night, you go ahead and lay an egg? Sure, sometimes the momentum shifts like that. You have such an emotional outpouring of excitement and you get so many hits the night before. It may just sports naturally level out like that sometimes. Do I think it's going to? No. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to stay on it and stay focused. And I think Nola's going to be really good tonight in a spot where the Phillies need to continue to win. He's got a 3.6 ERA and an 11.6 record, 1.15 whip to Patrick Corbin's 1.56. Anytime you see whip over 1.5 at the major league level, I say that's a guy you can take advantage of with this type of lineup. He's only K'd 97 guys in 131 innings pitched, Corbin, so he doesn't have his strikeout stuff anymore. Man, has that been a nightmare signing for the Nationals, and it's been a great decision that the Phillies went with Zack Wheeler instead, who you saw last night. But let's look at the numbers for predictions, and then we'll talk through the lineup as well. The Phillies minus 280 on the money line. That's about where they were last night. Huge favorites. Last night they won by 10 at that margin. Also, ESPN Analytics give the Phillies a 74.6% chance to win. Such a big advantage for the Phillies. The lineup tonight for your Philadelphia Phillies in a game that Vegas and ESPN both think they're going to win. Schwarber leading off again, Turner batting second, Harper third, Bohm fourth, Castellanos fifth, JT Realmuto sixth, Bryson Stott in the game again against a lefty pitcher. strong night last night, found a way on base. He's going to bat 7th. Weston Wilson gets back in the game again. You put him in for Brandon Marsh. You say, hey, kid, well, not so much a kid, 29 years old, but go get him again. Now, he's not going to hit for the cycle again tonight, but he's hot right now. 13 for 38 on the season. So batting 342, you see if he can continue that. And batting 9th, Johan Rojas, who has been barreling some baseballs lately. Like, his swing has looked really, really good. He's in a hot stretch. Like, low-key, Johan Rojas is seeing the baseball incredibly right now. That's a guy to keep an eye on down at the bottom of the lineup. But, hey, a very similar lineup in a lot of ways to what you saw last night. The same starters at positions that you saw last night. And you got to feel good about that, because when you have a 13-run outburst, it probably would make sense for the manager to say, hey, we're facing another lefty. We're just going to go completely run this one back the exact way that we did the night before. So, yes, I love that for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think that's the right call by Rob Thompson. Looking at the Washington lineup, I mean, they don't really have anyone too much to worry about. CJ Abrams is batting 2nd. James Wood is batting 3rd. Those are your guys to kind of keep an eye on. But I don't know, man. Again, just like the Marlins lineup, you got a team of mostly dudes who are not at the caliber of anybody on this Phillies roster. That's just fact of the matter. So you better beat them. And you better keep this momentum going, too, because while I continue to talk about the Phillies winning, if you're watching on YouTube, I once again have the victory shirt on. I had to save the season again with the shirt. Believe it or not, all that's happened since I decided to pull the shirt out of retirement is Kyle Schwarber hit a grand slam. Weston Wilson hit for the cycle. The Phillies have scored 9 and then 13 runs. They've had 13 and then 17 hits. So in the last 2 games since the shirt came out, 30 overall hits, 22 overall runs, a margin of victory of 10 plus 4, 14 in 2 games, and just some magical moments. And y'all doubted the victory shirt was going to be what turned the season around. You're welcome. I hate to have to save the season every year, but you know what? Somebody's got to be this team's hero. I'm only, kind of kidding. No, Weston Wilson was the hero last night. Kyle Schwarber, the hero 2 nights ago. Do they need one tonight? Do they have one tonight? Do they find a way to make something else special happen? Well, I'll tell you what. Normally a Friday night is a time where it's just like, I'll watch the Phillies all week. Maybe I'll just go out and meet up with some buddies. Take a peek in at the game or whatever, and then I'll watch it back tomorrow morning. The way this team is playing, I think there's going to be a lot of people in Philadelphia glued to their television sets or glued their eyes on the field from the seats at Citizens Bank Park as the team continues this hot homestand and starts to build momentum back to the team that we thought that they always were. These are so much more fun podcasts to do, folks. Let me just step outside of the realm of trying to be professional for a second. God, I hate losing, and God, I love winning. And this Phillies team doing special things like that, it just I can't overstate how happy it makes me feel. I'm a fan just like you guys. I am. I was losing my mind at the ballpark last night, watching that team do what they did, watching Weston Wilson do what they did. And I hope they do it again tonight. And I want to beat the brakes off the Nationals. And it feels so relieving because I was starting to get a little bit worried. And I'm not saying the Phillies are out of it. We talked in yesterday's episode about they have to win 3 out of 4 series in order to get to a point where I say, yeah, they're back. And they got a tough stretch coming up. I'm not trying to jump the gun here because I kind of did that when they took 2 or 3 against the Dodgers. But bottom line is, it is so good to have this team seem to be back. And another great opportunity to beat a lesser team tonight. I think they win again. I'm not doing the guarantee. I wasted the guarantee on game 2 against the Marlins and paid off in a big spot. But just expecting a victory and expecting that when we come back Monday, we're going to be talking about at least the series win. If not, do I say the S word? Not that S word. The sweep? I don't know. Maybe. I hate to ask for it, but we could be looking at it. Definitely a great opportunity. All right. Well, that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you again so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that stuff. Again, my apologies for this later episode. I know it's going to be right up against the start of game 2 with the Nationals, but I had to get some sleep. I was dead on my feet earlier today. So I couldn't miss the day of Weston Wilson's cycle, though, and I couldn't miss the day to wear the shirt. Continually be bad juju if I did not continue to wear this. Hopefully, we'll have it on again Monday when we have Monday's episode. The shirt ain't going anywhere, folks. I'm wearing this every day after games that the Philadelphia Phillies win, and that means hopefully we're seeing a lot of it for the rest of the year. But Monday, the expectation is the Phillies will have won 2 more games over the weekend, at least maybe 3 more games over the weekend, and we'll be looking at this team in a different light as they head out on the road when this Washington series ends. All right, folks. Well, again, that's all for today's episode, so thank you again. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll talk to you Monday on our next episode.